Welcome to the P1 Ventures podcast. Today is February 1st, 2022. This is our second podcast series of the year. I'm here with my co-host, Michael Visk, the VP of Sales at P1.
Hello, hello.
Michael's got that calling card. He just, it's pretty good.
It's actually Baba Booey's calling card.
Oh, is that Baba Booey's?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And Michael,
shout out to the Stern Show.
Michael apparently thinks that we have, large audience watching us because he's doing some product placement here, and he thinks he's going to earn some revenue from this.
Well, this is podcast number 2, so I assume we got a great following. And shout out to The Rock, great energy drink, by the way.
So last podcast, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about our 2021 year in review. We went through, the ups and downs of supply chain, our growth, expansion, that kind of stuff. Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about growth. And I wrote a podcast on this, I wrote a blog post on this a few days ago, just talking about how as the CEO of P1 for the last 15 years, I've made growth way too complex. And I'll give you some data points to verify that. We started the company in 2006, late 2006, and we started our first factory in March of 2007. From March of 2007 to the end of 2016, we grew our business on average about 39.9% a year in revenue growth. For a capital-intensive business, that's an extraordinary organic growth rate. That did not include any acquisitions. It did not include any other additions to the business, with the exception of true organic growth rate. That's a pretty good growth rate.
Homogenized client base, quite frankly, for those first 10 years.
I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of it was, GE and, a handful of other clients, but, that growth rate was pretty good, right? And from 2016 to 2021, our growth rate slowed to about 5% a year in our core manufacturing business, not including, some of the other new businesses we started and everything else. So if you just look at the core manufacturing business. And, at some point last year, I started looking at that and asking myself the question, okay, I went and got an MBA. You have an MBA as well.
Yep.
I've gone through a ton of, executive education, joined different groups and everything else, mentors and everything else. And those were wonderful things. There's nothing wrong. And I'm an avid reader. I read, I'm an avid, you hate
you
my
don't
reading.
say.
I mean, I read like 40 books a year. Yeah. And why does everyone hate when I read books?
As soon as he reads a book, we get assigned reading like we're back in high school. And I always hated that. And here I am in my professional career. Hey, you guys got to read this book.
But the worst part about me reading a book is I actually try and implement everything I learned in a book.
Yes.
At least a test at one time.
And sometimes they might be conflicting strategies.
That's all right. But, at the end of the day, we're a small business. We could try new things. But what's really interesting is that, there's a framework that is very well known in, MBA schools and all that kind of stuff around how to grow a business. And, it's obviously elevate yourself up and out of the business, delegate everything that should be delegated, measure everything, hold people accountable, build management systems, infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. And by the way, we do all that.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that, and just being transparent here and a little bit vulnerable, I've made, from 2016 and forward, I've made growth way too complex for our business. I built these, what I'll call buzz-rich frameworks, really put into practice, strategic. Matter of fact, I bought a book on strategic planning, and it was like a 12-chapter book, and I actually implemented the book chapter by chapter, thinking that was going to resolve our growth dynamic. And I went outside of the business. We invested in a bunch of startups. We invested outside of our core business, and it just didn't deliver the growth that we got in the first 10 years.
Yeah.
And you were here for much of that.
Yeah, for all of it, actually, yeah.
And, when you look back in the early days, in your mind, what do you think drove that 40% annual growth rate for, by the way, 10 straight years of growth as a business?
I think, part of it was that we were aligned with a good customer segment base at the time. Power generation, generator equipment was going nuts from 06 to 16. I actually started in 2011. I was in high school when they started the company, so I can't take any credit for that. But a lot of that was attributed to, it was known product lines. We knew everything quite well, and it's easier to scale with what you know. And I think for me personally, though, you mentioned the great growth that we had from 06 to 16. I'm having a lot more fun now, to be quite honest.
Yeah, no.
Now, maybe as a business owner, you're looking to replicate that growth, but just from a pure sales perspective, this is much more exciting times.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to talk a lot about this during today's show, but this year is projected to grow 82%.
We're back in business.
Back in business. Well, and the sales team is doing an incredible job. I do have to give you guys credit for that. I don't say it often enough. I know the show isn't about Michael Visk and making him feel real good about himself because, well, we'll leave it at that. But
you can just keep that on loop. Just keep repeating it.
I'll say it louder, slower, so you can record it for your wife. No, I think the sales team's doing a great job. So let's dial back a little bit. So last year, Herb Glazer is one of our business partners. Herb his family built one of the most incredible manufacturing businesses I've ever seen. I've been through probably 200 plants in 20 years and around the world. And, walking through Herb's plant, they were the largest independent elevator manufacturing company in the United States, located in the Bronx. They had a unionized workforce, plus they had operations in Illinois, I believe, and also in Canada. And Herb and his family took that company from 30 mil to over 200 million in revenue in the course of 12 years. And they did it virtually without adding another employee. So pretty impressive.
That's a pretty high bar.
And I went to Herb and I had a long chat with him. I said, Herb, how did you grow your business? What are we doing wrong? And he's an investor in our business. And he says, Dave, you make it way too complex. And he said, there's really only two things you need to do to grow a business. He says, make it fast, make everything you do faster, i.e. lean manufacturing, and then add new capabilities rapidly to solve customer problems. And I started thinking about that, and I said, it's interesting. That's actually what we did the first 10 years in business.
Yeah.
Every new opportunity that we created in the business came from just getting faster and serving our and in those first 10 years, we invested about $11 million into equipment and plants.
60 qualifications were developed.
60 product qualifications for large,
for
OEM
gen
clients.
steam and gas turbine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I took Herb at his word, and I said, you know what, instead of doing the delegation thing and being hands off, my corporate office was always separate from the manufacturing plant. I made a decision last summer to move back into the plant, not to take over from our team, because our team does an incredible job. It was more to, get boots on the ground and help drive a transformation in our business towards lean manufacturing. And, and we're going to talk a lot about that today, but Michael, what does lean manufacturing mean to you?
It's just the constant pursuit of improvement, elimination of bottlenecks, and continuing to speed things up to ultimately deliver more value to your customers.
And to create more capacity so you can actually grow your business.
Exactly. Yeah, and sell more.
And so, one of the things that we did is we sat down with the whole leadership team and I told them, I said, look, we're going to go all in on lean manufacturing. We're going to implement lean manufacturing across the whole business. The rotor coil. So we have 4 divisions. Everyone knows we have precision components, or high-speed machining, the rotor coils and composites division, where we make large-scale generator rotors. Yep. That's always been a one-piece flow.
Yep.
Herb actually helped us implement one-piece flow with Brandon and a team back there in 16.
Yep. 8 to 2 week manufacturing cycle. Another shameless plug.
Better than that plug, I think.
The dividends on that would be a little bit stronger.
I agree.
Sure. Yeah.
And then our third division is what we call integrated systems, where we do complex equipment manufacturing and assembly. That's actually one-piece flow as well.
Yep.
And then fourth quarter last year, we added warehousing operations, which we talked about in the last podcast. So we really said we're going to implement lean manufacturing and actually implement what I would call a lean manufacturing operating system across the whole business, all divisions, and actually transform our culture to be a lean culture. And like you said, what is a lean culture? It's about elimination of bottlenecks. It's about speed. It's about process improvement. It's about reducing waste. I mean, fundamentally, it's reducing waste in any process.
Sure.
And it compresses that process over time. And one of the data points, and I talked a little bit about this last time, is we discovered that our manufacturing cycles run in almost 20 days from receipt of materials to shipment of the product out the back door. And we started running some analysis on that. We said, we believe that we can get our cycles down to 10 days and less. Matter of fact, we actually reached that data point a couple of times in the fourth quarter, which was interesting in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and Michael, I'm curious to ask you this question.
I was not prepped for this, so this
that's
should be
okay.
Interesting.
But, you know me, I read a lot of books, try a lot of new things. When I started talking about lean manufacturing as the path forward for our business, be honest, I want you to be transparent and honest.
Oh, boy.
What did you and the team think about that last summer?
He read another book. Yay.
But, did you think it was something that would die on the vine, or?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think it'd be something that we would, officially adopt as a mindset, as a culture that was going to be actually infused into the business. We had some doubt.
Yeah. And from sitting from where we are today, where would you say that how serious I am about lean manufacturing?
On a scale of 1 to 10, he's an 11, hands down.
Yeah,
hands down.
So we went all in on lean manufacturing, and remember, lean manufacturing to us was about first and foremost creating more value for our clients, right? Because if we can shorten our cycles, we got a long ways to go. I don't want to pretend that we've reached any pinnacle at this juncture, but we're putting the building blocks in place.
There is no pinnacle.
That's true. It's always constant improvement. It's really about creating more value for our clients in terms of faster turnarounds, shorter cycles, better quality, lower cost, obviously, for better productivity and so forth. And then on the flip side, internally for our business, it creates more opportunities for our employees, and it increases our margins and our productivity and our capacity to grow our business. So you'd actually say, you know, when Herb said those two things, we make it fast and add capability. What's interesting about that dynamic is when I moved back into the plants and we started pushing lean manufacturing aggressively across the whole business and transforming the culture, it actually started creating a lot more opportunities for the business.
Yeah.
And talk about some of the opportunities that we saw and how we executed on some of those, Mike, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for instance, I think I mentioned on the previous podcast, we were looking at some indirect functions. That I know those a little bit better. I'm not on the shop floor. But the opportunities to make quoting faster, the opportunities to speed up contract review, these are all very critical processes in the entire manufacturing process. For us, the way we run our business, we receive a purchase order, sales order gets created, and then engineering will redefine materials based on the previous quote and then hand it off to purchasing. That's a very critical function in the business make sure that you order materials as soon as possible, because the operation can't do anything until
it's
they get material. Absolutely.
Right.
So we put a lot of emphasis on that, and we've done a lot to crunch that cycle.
Yeah. You know, from a lean manufacturing perspective, once I fell in love with it, once the company started falling in love, and what's interesting, you know, over 100 employees, not a single pushback from implementation of lean manufacturing. And when you think about manufacturing, I've worked in union shops. I've worked in a lot of different plants around the U.S. and also overseas, not full-time, but, you know, supporting those shops and so forth. Typically, you get a lot of pushback on lean because people in their minds, especially on the shop floor, they think that it's trying to take away their job, trying to eliminate, you know, opportunities for them.
Yeah.
And we implemented it correctly, or implementing it correctly, where nobody pushed back on lean manufacturing. And what's interesting about lean manufacturing and the accomplishment, we saw a 1.75x increase in gross profit in the fourth quarter, not because we increased our prices, not because we did anything to impact or harm our customers, but primarily because we got faster and our throughput went up. Our revenues, our average output in the main plant went up almost $300,000 a month in November and December, because of our efforts around lean manufacturing. And I'll be honest with you, what are some of the things that we did very practically? Setting up staging areas in front of the machines, make sure there's 3 jobs in priority in front of every machine. You know, getting someone to empty chip bins so the machinists don't have to do that stuff anymore. Creating a centralized tooling and fixturing crib so everything's tooled up properly to reduce downtime. Moving quality upstream into the manufacturing process so we can eliminate bottlenecks on the back end. We moved our entire shipping process. Yeah. Right? We had our shipping process in a smaller section of one of the plants. We moved the whole thing over to another building and actually created shipping lanes. Yeah. So everything could be organized and transferred back and forth between lanes. So if you think about the business, raw materials come in, they go into a lane. They get prepped, they get staged on a cart, they go in front of the right operation. It goes from one staging area to the next area, into the quality staging area, it gets double checked, goes into a ready to ship area, moves into the shipping lanes, gets packed and shipped out the plant.
Visibility and quality, actually, just seeing it is much more, you know, if on the sales side when you're tracking orders, just to see everything kind of all bunched together. Now you have a rhyme or reason, outside service lanes, DoD lanes, you know, and other commercial work. It's just the visibility just helps.
Yeah, and I made a comment in my blog post. I said, you know, I've always put these data-rich strategies in place.
Trying to merge general relativity and quantum mechanics together. That is our growth strategy.
It was a little less complex than that, but it was not too far away. But what's interesting about that is I've always been, you know, data. Now, data is incredibly important. Yes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an anti-data enthusiast. However, when it comes to process management, trying to use data and spreadsheets and, you know, dashboards to manage a physical process is very difficult to do. And what Herb encouraged us, he said, you can see bottlenecks and you could see where your processes are really lagging in terms of cycle just by seeing how. So, for example, we set up a lane in the QC department. Yeah. We taped off a whole section of the quality control department, and you can walk through the quality control department and in 3 seconds know exactly how backed up they are.
Yeah, that saves time.
Are there 3 jobs in queue or are there 7 jobs in queue? Right. And if there's 7 jobs in queue, you know you're behind.
Absolutely.
So you immediately add more resources over there to flush through that job and solve the bottleneck, right? Yeah. Same thing in front of machines, right? If you have 7 machines in a department, which we do, and you can visually see every single staging area from one vantage point, you can immediately see who's falling behind and where we got to work overtime and where we got to apply more resources.
Can be more proactive in our production scheduling, which ultimately benefits our customers.
Absolutely. I mean, but the visual staging alone has saved a significant amount. Matter of fact, we used to hold a production meeting every morning with the machinists. You know, the cell leaders in the machine shop. We don't have to do it anymore. Yeah. Right? Because all they do is they come in, if everything's staged in their staging areas, they just work on the next priority line. And while that job's running, they start setting up the second job. And so that's really improved
huge.
our cycles and everything else from a lean manufacturing
I
perspective.
can tell you, just starting from the beginning, trying to track a job back in the old days was trying to find like the holy grail on the floor. Like, I don't know where the hell this thing is, but hey.
Now you can track things down. You know exactly where they are, where they're staged. And you can, everything's color coded. We color coded our travelers and everything else, just making it all visual. So what's interesting about lean manufacturing, and we're going to go back to the whole growth concept. When Herb told me, make it faster and add capabilities, that actually became, and let me share how the cycle works.
Sure.
So if you lean out a plant or lean out an operation, lean out a process in your business, that becomes your culture. It becomes your operating system. And your number one metric becomes cycle.
Yep.
Right? So we actually had this whole litany of metrics in the business. We simplified it down to 2 metrics in our whole company. Number 1 is our manufacturing cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's reducing over time, your capacity is increasing and on-time delivery should be getting better.
Yeah.
And then we track the number of line items shipped every week. So that's more of a volume metric. So if cycles are coming down and line items shipped on a weekly basis are going out with the same capacity, that means you're getting faster and better. Those become our only 2 metrics. But lean manufacturing in of itself becomes a growth play. Because if you're reducing your cycles and you're improving the value you create with customers, so the other side of the coin is really adding the capabilities. Lean manufacturing makes you faster, creates new opportunities for your clients because they're coming to you. And then that really allows you to add new capabilities as a result of that. So Michael, you got an example?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just secured a large project from an OEM where we were actually competing with an overseas supplier, and they're having a lot of issues bringing in product, a lot of supply chain delays like we mentioned previously. And obviously we're right next door. We've already created value with them in a previous product line. And this one here in particular, it's a fabrication where it requires machining, a little bit of welding, but also as a powder coat, is it?
It's there's powder coat and anodize.
Powder coat and anodize. We're going to bring that in-house and create a cell. And we're going to be pumping these out 20 at a time, creating just-in-time delivery for our clients and managing on the back end on our side as well. We would never had that opportunity if we never had this mindset.
Mike, actually that's a perfect example. Let me explain why. So we won an opportunity. We already have machining and fabrication capabilities. We won an opportunity that was competing against an overseas supplier. And we knew that in order to compete on cost and cycle, right? Well, cycle is pretty easy because they got to ship. But,
we should beat them even without lean.
I'm pretty confident we can beat China on cycle when something's due down the street. I'm pretty confident of that. But we made a determination as a company. We said, okay, what's the bottleneck in manufacturing this product? Okay, and the bottleneck is we can buy the raw material, we can machine everything in house, we can weld it in house, but then we got to send it out for anodize and bring it back in. Then we got to send it out for powder coating and bring it back in. And again, if you think about lean and cycle, that just extends out your cycle and it's not very efficient. So we made a determination on that project alone. We said, you know what, we're going to invest in anodized capabilities and small lot powder coating capability. We already have the ovens. It's really just adding a couple different capabilities. So spend about $50,000 on bringing those processes in house and qualifying them. That adds new capabilities to our business. Certainly. And guess what that opens up from a sales perspective?
Actually, more capacity.
Not only that, but now you can sell product that gets anodized in small powder coating.
Yeah.
So you think about this cycle of growing our business. Lean manufacturing makes us faster.
Yeah.
It shortens our cycles. It creates more value for our clients. Then our clients are satisfied and they come to us and say, hey, we've got an opportunity for you. And then we can look at, hey, do we have the capabilities today? If the answer is no, we can quickly identify the bottlenecks in that process, invest in those capabilities, which then create a new product line or a new process we can market to our clients and additional clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of how I look at the warehousing, right? We launched the warehousing services back in Q4. And then I started looking at it. I said, whoa, I think we can build a $10 million business out of this. We can streamline the warehousing operation, use technology, make it lean. We can make it fast, efficient, give clients the whole, using technology with cloud ERP and GPS tracking in trucks. We can give them full-scale integration into our business so they can understand where their products are at all times. That's a lean manufacturing mindset to eliminate bottlenecks so we can build a business out of it.
Yeah. Question for you.
Yeah.
5 years ago, if we got this opportunity that required anodize, would you have looked at bringing it in?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because, going back to the whole concept of making growth too complex, being boots on the ground. When I started the business back in 2006 with Tony, okay, I was boots on the ground every day. And when I saw opportunity or I saw a bottleneck, I would just buy a piece of equipment, add a person, add a process, and that's why we grew pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
Being out of the mix, I probably would not have given it as much validation or priority that it required, right? But being boots back on the ground again and seeing how lean is just transforming our business. And, so for example, in Q4 alone, we acquired a new Mazak Variaxis i800T.
Yeah.
It's a $600,000 investment. Why did I do that? Because our bottleneck showed us that our current Variaxis, which is a 5-axis machine, you can run the lights out. Lauren's one of the most incredible machinists.
Yes, he is.
That machine is booked constantly because he does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And the backlog of quote opportunities and pipeline opportunities was growing 2x on a weekly basis.
Certainly justify the investment.
So immediately, I think we made that decision in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Here's the backlog. Here's the pipeline. Here's the activities coming in. We're going to acquire a new capability.
Yeah.
We made the purchase. We bought a new 450 quick turn QT 450M Mazak lathe, 16-inch chuck. 40-inch between length you can machine. Steady rest opportunities, stuff, capabilities we did not have before.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we saw a pretty good influx of opportunities around that product line.
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of shaft work we had to pass on in the past just because we didn't have the machining centers that fit the length and diameter ratio. Now, this adds capability for jobs that we can offer more solutions to clients that didn't know we had before.
Yeah, I mean, so you think about so that was like $700,000 or $800,000 in machine purchases. Yeah. Setting up an anodized line since Q4, a small lot powder coat line. We added warehousing operations in Q4. We added software capabilities.
Yep.
Right. So we have a software division on staff now, improving everything. We pulled quality at the source. Right. So we're doing inspection at the source using One Factory software. Taking data on the digitally during the process, so we can load up data packages and everything else. So lean manufacturing, in addition to capabilities, has become our growth model. It's become our growth plan. And what really hit it home for me was the book, The E-Myth. And I assigned it to the company.
It's a great book.
Did you read it? Yes or no?
No.
Now you see what I got to deal with every single day of my life. This guy, I love him. You didn't read this book?
No.
You couldn't even listen to the book?
No.
What? Did you get the Cliff Notes?
I didn't even do Spark Notes, no.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Listen to podcasts, listen about Elon Musk, who is a CEO that happens to walk the floor all the time in both plants.
Actually, you know what? You are onto something. Elon Musk.
Doesn't he do that?
I just finished a book called Power Play. It's about the startup and growth of...
we listened to that in the car together.
No, we did for about 4 minutes. You maybe turn it off because you wanted to listen to football. So you want to listen to like ESPN Plus or something. This wasn't good enough for you. However,
priorities,
Elon Musk involved in every major leverage decision inside the plant. Gigafactory, walk the floor every Saturday. Yeah. Matter of fact, I didn't even think about that. He's a great example.
I don't even need to read the book.
That son of a gun, who, by the way, I love. Like when I say son of a gun,
everybody in our company loves him.
I mean that with all endearment. He is a hands-on,
absolutely
son of a gun. Actually, I love his model.
He's the chief engineer too.
Yes, he is. Yeah, you know what? I love that guy. He's phenomenal. I love at Elon Musk. Hopefully you're listening. The book E-Myth really brought it all home for me. So Herb says, give faster, add new capabilities. We started doing that in earnest last year. Started growing our business, adding a ton of new capabilities, keep solving bottlenecks. And that's actually what Elon, in the book, in the Power Play book, I think it was in chapter 18, it talks about the Gigafactory. And what he did is, Panasonic was making their lithium-ion batteries for the cars. They had sold something like 25 or 30,000 Model S's the year before. It was like 2012, 2013. And he identified that the biggest bottleneck to growing their business in adding the Model X and in adding the Model 3 to have a car for everyone was the battery.
Yeah.
And the costs were, at $21,000 per car. He wanted to sell a car for $30,000, $35,000 a year. And he sat around with his head engineer, Straubel, who was like one of the guys that helped found the company. And they said, how do we solve this bottleneck? And they said, you know what? Let's build our own factory. Let's build a 5 million square foot factory, whatever the Gigafactory was. Let's bring it all in-house, and we'll manage the cost, and we'll get the cost down aggressively over time. That's a lean manufacturing. Matter of fact, exactly what we're talking about is exactly what they did.
First principles again.
Identified a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Right? Through cost, want to bring something to market. And then they added a new capability, manufacturing lithium-ion batteries in partnership with Panasonic at first.
Yep.
But they built an entire capability around a bottleneck in their business. And that's actually exactly what we're talking about today. But the E-Myth book pulled it all together for me.
Definitely. Me too.
So page 200, Michael, you read that page?
Yes, that was enlightening. Yeah. Inspiring.
It was inspiring.
Especially page 201. Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. I don't even think there's 201 pages in the book. But the book talks about this, and this is the last thing I want to talk about today with concept of growth and growing our business. The author talks about often as business leaders, we will abdicate our responsibility for the business. And often that could be masked in delegation. Mm-hmm. So when people tell you, you got to delegate at scale, you got to do this and that, and I understand those things, and I agree with those things to a degree. But what that often leads to is abdicating the responsibility for key functions of your business to other people, and then just getting angry or mad when results don't happen. And the second thing about that book, The E-Myth, which I'm plugging because it's a great book, easy read, very easy read. I think someone with a third grade reading level can read it. Maybe that's why you didn't read it.
I'm on a second grade reading level, so it's beyond my capability.
Yeah,
He's plugging a novel, and I'm plugging an energy drink. But
yeah, no, I'm plugging it. It's more than a novel. However, he talks about how your business is actually the product or service that you're building and selling. And I've always focused on the end products we were selling, the system or the process that we were deploying to sell. So we would say, hey, we're a service company, but we make this product, we make this product, we make that product.
Right.
And
you're trying to relate it to your clients. I mean, I get why we were doing that.
Yeah, but it was trying to productize a business that shouldn't be productized.
Right.
What this author says, he says, no, you got to build your business as if that's the product. Because what actually creates and delivers value for a client is your business.
Yeah.
It's your set of processes, your people, your resources, and your culture, AKA your capabilities.
Right. Those inputs can deliver value to whatever they're looking for. So
And he says perfect those things.
Right.
Make that process or make that set of capabilities your product and make them phenomenal, and then everything else will correct itself. And so the combination of Herb saying get faster and add new capabilities, lean manufacturing is our operating system. It's how we do business. It's transformed our culture. And the rapid addition of new capabilities because new opportunities emerge with our clients is our new growth model going forward. And if you look at the last year, if that's any indication of what's happening last year and what's happening this year, I think we're going to finally nail it.
I think so too. Absolutely. But you're telling me that so I didn't really need to read the book. You just gave me the spark notes just then.
Yeah, all you got to do is actually ask me.
Thanks, Dave.
You probably, what could have happened? You should say, Dave, I'm going to buy you lunch. Can you tell me about the E-Myth? Because I know it's important to you. I'm not going to read it because I can barely read. I got an MBA. However, I'd love to learn from you, David, what the book actually says and why it's meaningful to you. That could have worked.
It's a terrible way to end the podcast.
No, we're not.
We got to end it on a different note.
You could probably tell me about astronomy, right?
You always call it astrology. No, Dave, it's not astrology.
You can tell me about Mars and the moon and everything else. Anyway.
Important things.
Anyway, here's the takeaway. Our business stagnated in growth because of me. What do you say about that?
Keep rolling.
I made growth way too complex. And put frameworks and Buzzrich frameworks and all that stuff in place. But Herb Glazer and an E-Myth, and even using the example of Elon that we just came up with, simplified our growth model down to two simple things. Make it faster, lean, and add new capabilities rapidly. And that's what worked for us in the past. And ultimately, that's going to create more value for our clients.
Absolutely.
Because a year ago, we couldn't anodize. Today, we can anodize. That plays well for a lot of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully, I'm curious for other CEOs out there and other folks that are running businesses, have you two made growth too complex? And to me, maybe this is, you're listening to this and you're saying, oh, I already knew all this stuff. And you're probably right, because I'm not that intelligent. But it's something that really changed and transformed our business and my leadership style in the last year.
Yeah, finally.
Mike, any final statements to make? Tom Brady retired. You want to comment about that?
I'm actually shocked. I thought, because Adam Schefter at ESPN reported that he was retiring a little preemptively, especially when Tom Brady's father came out and said Tom hasn't made a decision yet. We actually got the news in our production meeting this morning, and
you're a little depressed, I'd say.
I am. I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, but the odd thing about this is I was 12 years old when Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl. Like, all I know as a fan of football is Tom Brady dominating the league.
Yeah,
I'm 34 now.
I was 22 when he started playing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. What a great career.
I got to tell you a funny story. So we love football at P1. Matter of fact, you can't go into a meeting or out of a meeting without football dominating at least 10 minutes of the conversation. And Tony Leone, who's our president of our company, him and I always make friendly bets on football games.
Yeah.
And in the beginning of the season, I bet him pretty good chunk of change, 4-1, that Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl. Buccaneers win the Super Bowl. So 2 weeks ago, they're playing against the Rams.
Yep.
And they're down 27-13. And there's like 9.5 minutes to go in the game, and the Rams are driving. So I text Tony. I said, Tony, what's the buyout?
Yep.
Because I don't want to pay the full amount. What's the buyout? He goes, all right, you have to the 8-minute mark, and he gave me the buyout.
Yep.
So I was like, all right, I'll take it, because the Rams are going to kick a field goal. It's a 3-score game.
Yep.
I take the buyout. I Venmo the money to him immediately. And then all of a sudden, they miss a field goal.
Yep.
Tom Brady drives, gets a touchdown. It's 27-20. 2.5 minutes to go in the game. The Rams fumble.
It was a Cooper Kupp fumble, or was
No.
it
It was Akers.
It was Cam Akers.
It was Cam Akers.
Okay.
Fumbles the ball.
Yep.
Tom Brady scores and ties the game.
Yep.
I wanted to jump off my house.
Remember 28-3 in the Super Bowl?
Oh my
28-3.
gosh! I actually rooted for him to lose at that juncture. I'm like, I paid off the bet. Anyway, what an incredible playoff series the last couple of weeks.
It's been. I've never seen playoffs this great. It's been phenomenal.
I know this has nothing to do with lean manufacturing or capability development or our clients, but I got to ask the question: who do you like in the Super Bowl?
Who do I want to win, or who do I think is going to win?
Who do you like?
I'm going to give it to the Rams. They're
at home.
They're at home. Listen, they on a 53-man roster, they're more talented. I think the defensive line, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, the Bengals' offensive line is pretty weak. Joe Burrow, Joe Cool's been phenomenal. I think it's going to be a little too much for them to overcome.
Interesting. And on that note, folks, the P1 Ventures podcast.
Read the E-Myth book, or don't, or just listen to this podcast.
You're going places. I'm really positive about that. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.